The new season of Euphoria, despite earning one of its lowest scores on Rotten Tomatoes compared to the previous two, has actually seen a rise in viewership, largely because of how uncomfortable it is to watch. It's not the show's strongest season. In fact, not a single character really comes out unscathed. The storyline feels pretty weak overall, and it's Nate and Cassie's arcs that end up carrying most of the weight, acting as the central thread that keeps the season from completely falling apart. One thing that's clearly missing is the signature touch of Labyrinth in those high-tension moments.
Today you will see me.
Just for your love.
Without it, the shift becomes obvious, especially with the introduction of music that leans more toward a Disney-like tone, even in scenes that could have been iconic, like Maddie's entrance at the wedding. This season continues to follow its main character, Rue, who is still struggling with her drug addiction. But right from the first episode, there's a noticeable shift. She starts trying to move toward what she describes as a divine path guided by God. It's not portrayed as a solid transformation, but rather as an idea that lingers, constantly in tension with everything else in her life.
I just feel like if I grew up religious, maybe my life would be better.
After meeting a Christian family, Rue begins to feel the urge to redeem herself. She shares this with Lexi, who's been pulled into the Hollywood industry and responds with little restraint, openly judging her.
Well, I'm not going to be friends with a Christian.
Why?
'Cause they're judgmental.
This contrast highlights two opposing perspectives, one of someone trying to rebuild through faith, and another of someone already shaped by a more superficial and critical environment. After that, we see Rue arrive with Alamo, whom she interprets as someone placed in her life by God. This moment doesn't just reinforce her growing spiritual outlook, it also shows how she's starting to justify what happens to her through that lens. By episode 3, Rue admits that while she feels comfortable working with Alamo, she's actually looking for something legal. That contradiction defines her arc. She stays in an illegal environment while insisting she wants out. It's toward the end that things take a sharp turn. After going to find Laurie to make her pay for what happened with the pig, Rue ends up taking revenge on Paladin instead. This moment doesn't feel like closure. It's more of a trigger that sets everything else in motion. While driving, she's pulled over by the DEA. From that point on, Rue's future is completely up in the air. The DEA's involvement doesn't just change her immediate situation, it also raises the question of whether that divine path she talks about is a genuine belief, or just a way of making sense of everything happening around her. If anything from the season has already leaked, it's the episode titles, and each one seems to reinforce key pieces of the story. Episode 1 makes it clear that Rue travels through Mexico as a drug mule, swallowing pellets to transport them to Laurie and pay off her debt. It doesn't go into unnecessary detail, but it's enough to establish just how dangerous her situation really is. America, My Dream, Episode 2, is a phrase spoken by Juana while photographing Cassie. It works more as an aspirational idea than something that actually reflects reality within the story. The Ballad of Paladin in Episode 3, more of a lament than an actual song, marks his end, as Bishop slips him the drug that ultimately poisons him. The moment isn't framed as a shocking twist, but as a direct consequence of the world they're all operating in. Episode 4, titled A Kitty Likes to Dance, clearly centers on Cassie. Not just because we'll see her in a nightclub trying to draw attention and gain followers, but because this could also be the name she adopts on social media as she begins monetizing her body. The show doesn't shift its lens here. It continues to explore how its characters adapt to whatever resources they have, even when that means putting themselves on display. In that sense, while Rue's storyline moves between faith, illegality, and the looming possibility of DEA involvement, Cassie's is driven by her need to stay relevant. Both arcs unfold in parallel without resolution, making it clear that the season isn't interested in quick answers. It's about sustaining tension. In A Kitty Likes to Dance, we'll follow three main threads: Nate in court, Cassie stepping into her new life, and Rue being forced to run from something she can't undo. Laurie is, without a doubt, furious. When she wakes up, the first thing she sees is Paladin's body, placed in a box for burial. Her cousins immediately recognize this as a declaration of war. Lori is vindictive. She doesn't forget, and she knows this was ordered by Alamo. Still, it was carried out by Bishop and Rue, whom she had already said she missed and wanted back. Even if the full outbreak of war doesn't hit until episode 5, the tension is already building in episode 4. Where everything seems to converge is Rue's situation with the DEA. When she's taken into a room, the agents toy with her, revisiting the possibility that she acted as a mule in Mexico. Rue denies it, but the photo evidence says otherwise. This could be the divine moment Rue has been waiting for, a sign from God pushing her towards something legal. It's likely the DEA will bring her in as a protected witness and use her to reach the deepest layers of Alamo's operation. And as a result, Lori could also be pulled into the fallout once a cartel war begins. We see hints of this when Rue looks up at the cameras in the strip club. She's clearly after something important, or may already have it. Since in episode 2, when she starts working there, she already knows the safe holds more than just cash. That detail could be what eventually pulls the DEA into the situation. Although there's a moment where someone appears ready to shoot the strip club owner, it doesn't seem to be anyone from the DEA. This is likely where Lori's cousins come in, but it may be saved for the end of the episode, setting the stage for the larger conflict ahead. In one scene, we see Rosalia alongside Rue, both being held at gunpoint, and we know it's Lori. But again, if Rue is now working with the DEA, this could be the setup to capture her. Then again, it might not happen just yet. Pulling that trigger midway through the season could be too soon. From another angle, we follow Lexi, who reconnects with Jules after the wedding. They've been aware of each other over time, but seeing each other again and talking about their work brings them back together within the story. Lexi is now recommending Jules within her industry circles. However, Jules' art isn't soft or abstract. It's explicitly sexual, and the reaction on set is disappointment, including from Lexi herself. After the beating and Nate losing a finger, the situation reaches the authorities. Covered in bruises, Nate is brought to court. He claims everything happens for a reason, but in that setting, it feels more like he's giving a statement. It's possible Nas has been involved in something shady, and law enforcement has been closing in. One of the most compelling storylines so far is Cassie's, as she seeks out Maddie again. Her fear of poverty won't let her rest. She wants to grow her social media presence, and Maddie keeps pushing the idea of capitalizing on her image. When we see her again, she's wearing something iconic. She doesn't want to fall behind Maddie. She wants control back. Even being publicly humiliated by Nate's mother doesn't shake her. Maddie's plan for revenge involves taking Cassie to a hotel and reshaping her image, something that feels completely foreign to who Cassie used to be. We also notice she's no longer wearing her wedding ring, making it clear something's off. Another key detail is that Maddie plans to connect her with Brandon, an influencer with 20 million followers who's known for using women for his own gain. Maddie understands exactly how he operates, and without hesitation, she tells Cassie to get close to him. The goal is simple. Once he notices her, he'll feature her in a video where she appears attractive and provocative, creating buzz and pulling his audience toward her. But what we're seeing isn't just strategy. Maddie is essentially offering her up. At one point, Cassie even seems genuinely happy, likely because Brandon has already showcased her and helped her gain the follower count she needs to start monetizing. That could, in theory, help Nate. But one thing is clear. Cassie doesn't want to help him pay off any debt. She just doesn't want to be poor. This could even lead to divorce. A leaked script line adds another layer. The fairy tale is over. In other leaked scenes, we see Maddie, Rue, and Cassie inside an apartment complex. Once again, Cassie isn't wearing her ring. Maddie is photographing her, but this time the poses aren't overtly vulgar. They're subtle, controlled, and still undeniably sexy. Lexi is there too, continuing to judge. Her critical eye within the industry keeps pointing out that influencers aren't real artists. What we might see next is Maddie positioning Cassie as available. And one telling detail, when Nate is in court, he's alone. There's no indication Cassie is standing by him, and that's because she's already starting to pull away. All of this leaves several open questions as the season approaches its midpoint. Is Rue truly searching for God in every moment of her life? Will Cassie stay with Nate, or will Maddie succeed in tearing that relationship apart after the humiliation? And will Lexi remain judgmental all the way through?